Hi there, welcome to Glen Talks, where we talk about all things in the world of business and the local community. We offer inclusive insights and exclusive experiences. Today's guest is the incredible Geena Jackson, who joins us as the host of ATPN's Bear's Lair. She has an incredible history of business development and forming partnerships, and we'd love to hear a little bit more about her journey and what she's doing to empower the next generation of entrepreneurs. Thanks for joining us, Geena.
Thank you for having me.
Can you share about your background? What led you into the business development area, and what is the path that led you to creating the Bear's Lair?
Excellent. Thank you for the question. I actually graduated in broadcast journalism out of broadcast journalism school about 30 years ago from BCIT. And my goal in life was to become a TV reporter. And that was, I grew up in Nanaimo. I'm Indigenous. I'm from the Sechelt Nation, proud member of the Sechelt Nation. My traditional name is Cetacia, and it means bringing the community together. And I just felt that there was, when I wanted to become a broadcast journalist, I went to Los Angeles and I did my internship, and I worked for Entertainment Tonight, and I worked for Hard Copy, just an intern, bringing coffee for people, nothing really glamorous. And I did not pursue that. I met 2 weeks prior, I met my boyfriend at the time, which was my husband for 20 years, and just didn't pursue broadcast journalism. At that time, I wanted to have a place where I could speak and meet people, and I'm very relationship oriented in building, and did not end up going into that. Lived in Toronto for about 7 years and then moved back to BC. Started a business there. I've always been an entrepreneur. I think that some people are just born entrepreneurs. And I feel that I'm one of those people. I remember being 8 years old, and back in the day, now I'm 54 years old. So to all of the young people that may be listening, or my people, Gen X's, back in the day when I used to have a paper route when I was 8. And I used to go around and deliver papers, and we used to have to go collect money. So collections, go and get money, $12 or whatever it may be for the subscription. So you're 8 years old, knocking on doors, getting money.
Where's my money?
Yes, yeah, where's my money? Getting it in a little Ziploc bag, and people would pay, or some people wouldn't pay, and just getting to know the people. Oh, hi, Mrs. Robson. It's so nice to see you. Petting the dog. What's the dog's name? And just getting to know people. So I was a very social child. But what I did identify as gaps in my customers, that they were elderly, or they needed to get their lawns mowed, or maybe I could do something else on the side besides deliver papers for the Winnipeg Free Press. Maybe they needed me to go to the store for them sometimes. So what I did was develop this little business from when I was 8 years old, of mowing lawns for 25 cents, or going to the store for somebody for 25 cents. And of course, my why was candy. I wanted candy, and I wanted my own financial independence. So I think entrepreneurism has always been really important to me. And through my journey, I've always had jobs. I had my own cleaning company when I was 21 years old, and I went from 12 clients to 121 clients within a year. And being 21 years old, and then sold it for $50,000 at that time, which I thought was great, because I'm 21. I don't want to be cleaning houses or just being a cleaner. I wanted to pursue a lot of different things. So fast forward I moved back from Toronto to Vancouver, and Chief Leanne Joe with the Squamish Nation. I had my broadcast journalism background, but I also had entrepreneurial skills. And I applied for a job which was a 6-month contract, until I figured out what I wanted to do when I got back to Vancouver. And that was to help the small businesses within the Squamish Nation. Now I'm from the Sechelt Nation, and my auntie Mabel married a Squamish gentleman. So I have a lot of cousins and relations there. Of course, I'm blonde and I'm light skinned. Nobody knows me. And started working, and a lot of people were like, well, who is this white girl that's coming in and taking a job that should go to an Indigenous person, or probably a community member? And my Aunt Mabel's like, gave me some street cred, and she's like, that's your cousin. So, she is Indigenous. And I worked there for 6 months. And my job, first and foremost, was to increase the portfolio of Indigenous Entrepreneurism, to support entrepreneurs that wanted to start their business or expand their existing business. That's what Chief Leanne Jo did before she went on maternity leave. So I got the job. I was walking in, she was walking out, and I said, "Oh, am I training today?" And she said, "Gotta go. My baby's being born today." And his name is Isaac, and he was a surrogate. So I walked in, didn't know, had a bunch of files. She left me some files to look through, and it was a 6-month contract, and she never, ever came back. So I just worked for the Squamish Nation for 13 years. So my job as a small business officer moved into an economic development officer. And for that, I was in charge, even more in charge of supporting entrepreneurs, because we knew that capital projects were coming into our territory. There were tons of opportunity coming into our territory, and that we wanted to really pad up the entrepreneurs so that they had the skill sets, they had the certifications, they had the capacity, they had competitive rates, so they could participate in the economy that's coming into their own community. So that's how I started my journey. It was by accident, and it really was a great opportunity, because in the meantime, when I was working with Squamish, the Sanok, who you know about, that amazing project underneath the Broad Street Bridge. We have wood fiber LNG, the wood fiber project that is going through the territories. We have work with BC Hydro, with Fortis, tons of capital projects. So really having an opportunity to participate.
Awesome. And so from that, you learned about a whole lot in terms of the world of everything on all those big major super projects that are coming in, and continuing to have that in mind for the entrepreneur. So that led you down the road into the Bears Lair. So
yeah, well, but prior to the Bears Lair, so the thing that I love about Indigenous entrepreneurism and entrepreneurism in any way is that for any culture, when you start a business, there's risk. There's you need people to stand beside you and behind you to succeed, but it's a roller coaster. And what I found about Indigenous entrepreneurism is that, number one, we all share the same history, and it's not a pretty history. Residential schools, being on a reserve in the first place, having a lack of access to capital, having stereotypes and barriers. It's very difficult, and I take a look and I look at the entrepreneurs before us and the entrepreneurs now that we're going to get into later, and the difference in that. But what I have found is that the entrepreneurs, Indigenous entrepreneurs, care about their people, their environment. Instead of natural resource extraction, they want natural resource preservation. It doesn't mean that they're against industry. It just means let's do it in a mindful way where we're not eliminating all of our resources for the future in the 7 generations. I also know that they care about their elders. They care about their youth. Where are they going, and what services and goods and what kind of opportunities and programs can we provide them in education so that they can go to the next level? And I really wanted to support that. And I remember watching the dragons down in the Shark Tank and thinking to myself, why isn't there a program that's like the Shark Tank or Dragons Den for Indigenous entrepreneurs? Why isn't there something that shows who we are as people? And I said that around for 10 years to anybody that would listen, even people that were in the TV industry. I'm like, don't you think it would be cool to do a show about this? I had no intention of doing a show like that on my own. I was happy. I was vetting proponents coming in and with the Squamish Nation, and that taught me a lot too, is vetting proponents that were either authentic, what actually authentic consultation means, and the ones that impressed me and the ones that didn't impress me, and who we wanted to partner with as a Squamish Nation that shared our same core values, which are respect, which are family, which is care for the land. And we made some great partnerships over the years, but COVID came along. And I went from the Squamish Nation to a fantastic, amazing company called Altec. And I was the vice president of Indigenous advancement there. And it was great because my job had switched. Now I'm vetting the company that I'm working for to proponents, which was an easy sell because this company but a decade before I started, was doing the right thing thanks to a president by the name of Robin Lucas, who I just hold my hands up high. And he worked with Indigenous and developed partnerships a decade before reconciliation was a buzzword, a decade before set-asides or permission to come in and have consultation before projects start. So working for a company like that was great, but then COVID hit. And there was this little pack of time that I think the whole world had to not work and wonder what was going. I was in emergency services with Alltech, so I could still participate and work from home when many people did not get that opportunity. But it gave me some time to think about what I wanted to do with my life. And I kept talking for 10 years about doing a show. And my husband finally just said, you take your own advice that you give to entrepreneurs and stop talking about it and just do it. Mm-hmm. So we pitched it to APTN, Aboriginal People's Television Network, and they said, this sounds like a great idea. We've never done a reality TV show before. It's a bit risky. We don't have the money to fund the entire show, so you're gonna have to raise all the money. And we did. So we raised $700,000 for the first year, and that was thanks to, I went out to sponsors and I said, don't you think that this would be a great TV show? And BDC signed on, and then Scotiabank signed on, and then MasterCard signed on, and then Monera signed on, and then Shell Canada signed on, and Securiguard signed on, and Canada Post. And as soon as sponsors like that sign on, it becomes this domino effect of not going the dominoes, the going south and going north and standing up and straight. When somebody looks and sees your repertoire of who your sponsors are, they know that there's due diligence. They know that there is some authenticity and credibility to the program. And that really, really helped me. And I can't thank all of the sponsors and people that helped me, family, friends, everybody that pitched in to make season 1 happen. And it was a great show on APTN. And we had 18 entrepreneurs from all over Canada during COVID, filming during COVID. Talk about adversity. And I think this is the thing, is that we are people that face adversity and we just make things happen. And there really, if I could say one word in sentence, it's just, there's no option to fail.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And you also do a lot of work with youth as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm proud to say that we've done 2 seasons of the Bears Lair during the first, and CBC Gem just bought Bears Lair season 1, and it's on CBC Gem. So it's mainstream now. So we're hoping that it's going to get to season 2. It's on Air Canada. So if anybody wants to watch it on Air Canada when they're flying, the Bears Lair is on there. What I found is when you're doing a TV show, you film, there's a lot of planning, but you film for 2 weeks. And then after that 2 weeks, it goes into post-production for about 6 months. So I thought to myself, my passion is entrepreneurism. What are we going to do that's going to make a difference? When I was at the Squamish Nation, we taught camps for adults, but I did one camp that we did one course where the adults got to come in. It was 6 weeks, 2 days a week. How do you get bums and seats at 6 o'clock at night? You get the best caterer within the nation, and you provide daycare. Mm-hmm. So providing daycare, 8 years old up to 14 years old. And I don't mean daycare for young teenagers, because we had a basketball hoop and what have you, and people watching. But basically, after the 2nd, 3rd class, they were sitting beside their parents. And I thought, oh, great, this is going to be distracting. But they wanted to learn. And by the 3rd class, I said, well, can someone remind me last week about what target market is? And every single youth in the room put up their hand, not one adult. And then when I said, what is target market? And they said verbatim what the teachings were the week before. I knew that there was something. And when the kids started helping me with my PowerPoints and my slideshows, and you're 8 years old, there's another thing. And the fact that they were interested and paying attention and aware of what I was saying, and they were absorbing the information, a light bulb went in my head. The kids today, not just Indigenous kids, but these particular group, the kids today are more, they're absorbing information at such a different rate now. They're absorbing it faster. They're way more technically savvy than we are. And they don't have the triggers or barriers we have as adults, where we've had a bad boss, or we've had a bad business partner, or we've been ripped off for money, or we've had a business fail. They just are these bright diamonds. And I just got back to what my why was in my life. And I always think it's really important before, and I say this to everybody when they go in as a non-Indigenous business talking to Indigenous nations or anybody that you meet, because I think it's really impressive. And I have to quote Chief Gibby Jacob from the Squamish Nation, who's one of my mentors. There was a construction company that came in, Servco, which are good friends of ours. And I made an introduction, a soft introduction, and we were laughing. And then he said, okay, Chief Gibby, now, do you want me to are you ready for me to tell you what we do? And Chief Gibby said, no, before you tell me what you do, I want you to tell me why you do it. And it absolutely stopped him in his seat because no one's ever asked him that. And as an entrepreneur, when you do business, when you say, it made him really think about it. When you become an entrepreneur, when you have a business, whatever scale it is, to like a small 1 or 2 person business up to a 500 staff business or more, you have to really know why you're doing it. And it gives you a moment to think, why do I do it? Because I want to make a difference in Indigenous communities. Why do I do it? I see that that the youth of today are the leaders of tomorrow. I see they're the decision makers of tomorrow. I see that their voices want to be heard. I see that if you give them a little bit of confidence and a lot of credit, that they're going to really impress you. I see that they're concerned with the environment, with each other's feelings. I see that they accept each other for who they are, no matter what gender they want to be or identify as. And I see that they want a better future for us, and makes me emotional.
And you had a graduation ceremony yesterday, so can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'll take a drink of my coffee.
Yeah.
Interesting. When you think about your why, I'll have to get myself together. When you think about your why, so when we interviewed the Bears Lair contestants for season 2, every single one of them, when you ask your why, they all cried, because sometimes when you have a business, you get so busy that you don't see the forest through the trees, and you're worried about your payroll or your cash flow or your employees or your HR or how many hours you have to work or your partnerships or what have you. But I think it's really important to, when you get really back to the fundamental of your why, that's what your purpose is. And there's a lot of companies, including everyone that supported the Bears, that have profit with purpose. So my social impact is this. And I think social impact is a lot of where Indigenous communities are really paying attention now. So, sorry, what was the question? A graduation ceremony last night. Yeah. We once a year, so we go all over Canada. I've taught 40 kids camps all over Canada, from the Yukon to Manitoba, Ontario, Saskatchewan, Alberta, BC. So far, I've taught over 1,300 kids. But what we do once a year is we partnered with AFOA Canada, or AFOA, which is the Aboriginal Financial Officers Association. Last year, we partnered for our first youth camp, which is 18 to 40 years old. This is a pocket of youth. And when you think you're young at 40, when you're 54, you're a little kid still, between 18 and 40. But this is a pocket of youth that are looking for direction in what they want to do with their lives. When you get when you get out of school, there's so much pressure from your parents, particularly from Indigenous communities, to immediately get students into post-secondary school, because we want to educate, we want to promote that. We know that that's where the leaders of tomorrow are going to come from, are the ones that put themselves out and step out of their box and continue their education. But a lot of kids aren't ready for it. People want to travel. People just want to maybe take a gap year, and that gap year turns into another job. So we wanted to provide an opportunity where these youth could come together and, over a 3-day camp, much like the kids' camps, but a really elevated version, have keynote speaking on public speaking, social media do's and don'ts, interview questions, what to say, introducing them to industry experts. We had a job fair, and it was an amazing 3 days. These kids come in and they don't know each other. They were from all over BC, Nishka, from Vancouver Island. They were from up north in Soto, Treaty 8 territory. And they all came together, and we had 25 kids, and we put them into groups of 5, and they have a professional coach that sits with them and some co-coaches, and they decide on a business. They decide on a business, name for the business, what they're going to sell, where they're going to sell it, core values. They decide a motto, a mission statement, target market, how they're going to market, how they're going to find and track their perfect customer, startup costs, operational costs, profit, what they're going to do with their profit, their social impact. And then we film a video, Bearsler pitch video with our professional TV team, which is that filmed the Bearsler, Cliff Hoken, just giving a shout out, amazing videographer. And then we take it and we edit them. And then we have a graduation night, which was last night. And we invite friends, family, corporate sponsors, everybody. We had about 120 people at that event to raise our hands up to 25 kids. And they got up, and the winning team won $10,000. And you've got to know that these kids just met 3 days ago. So to think of a business, they had about maybe 6 to 8 hours maximum as group work to think of this and come up with logos and what have you. We teach them how to shake hands, to look in your eyes. May I give you my business card? Things like that. And my team won $10,000. So I was a coach for the team, and my team won $10,000. But interesting enough, by organic osmosis, as usual, every single team decided on a business that was helping their community on a local, a regional, a national, or a global level.
That's so cool. And just the amount of network and community you're just creating from a lot of this. You're just tying us so much of that together.
It's when we talk about reconciliation, I really think the word should be called reconciliation. And I know that sometimes that can be a buzzy word, but reconciliation is really data-based, tangible results that you can see, if not immediately, in a short part of time. So people can have a reconciliation plan that's mandated and put together by industry, but if you don't read it and you don't live it, and there's no tangible results of how this is working, then it doesn't mean anything. It's nice on paper, and it's nice that you spent the time doing it, but when you really can take a look and talk to your organization or your business about, number one, what's our why? Number two, what's our purpose? And then define our core values, and then talk about our strategic plans of going and approaching business or working with different communities or different organizations, then I think you have started a conversation that's really important.
Right. And when it comes to, the call for reconciliation and having adoption of UNDRIP, and a lot of these organizations, when they're coming in, and I don't know from your past experience, there's a circulating idea, and a lot of I'm hearing of nations that are putting together their own template or an expectation on what to expect, because reconciliation isn't very clearly defined when it comes to a lot of this stuff, and it makes it really difficult in terms of expectations with relationships. So do you have any thoughts on that?
I think education first and foremost. And what does reconciliation mean to a lot of people? Some people think it means we have to pay back the Indigenous people for all the travesties that happened in the past. We have to, and some have positive attitudes and some don't. Some are uneducated, some want to learn. Improving your corporate culture. I think in what does reconciliation mean? What is the definition of it because they'll have the Wikipedia definition of it, and that is it. But what does it mean to our company? Does it mean that we improve the corporate culture? Does it mean that we educate, that we have some sort of cultural training? Does it mean when we wear orange shirts on September 30th? What does that mean? yes, it's a story about an Indigenous woman, Phyllis, that was her orange shirt was taken away, and that symbolizes everything that was taken away from us. But what does it mean to you when you wear orange shirts, and where are you getting them? Mm-hmm. Right? Are you getting them from a local community member? Are you going online and just ordering mass produced from somebody? When do you have a catered lunch? Do you have somebody that comes in and speaks about reconciliation, and then you have a caterer that makes bannock or something where there can be that kind of cultural connection? And reconciliation, September 30th doesn't always have to be a sad day. It's recognizing it. I do a lot of public speaking when I go into organizations, and I talk about what it means to me. Our ancestors, my grandparents, my stepmom, my aunties, my great aunties and uncles went to residential school. But it's this ripple effect. It can either be a ripple effect as this is what happened, because we can't change the past, or it can be a ripple effect of this is where we are now and this is how we're being held up and recognized. So I think our ancestors from the past will be really proud of what we're accomplishing, and also how we're being accepted for our skill sets and our talents and the amazing people that Indigenous people are. So I think reconciliation can mean a lot of things to a lot of people, but I think in everyone's company, organization, even family, asking your kids, what does reconciliation mean to you? Why don't we decide what it means to us and how that we're going to participate in it?
So what would be some of those key elements? What would be some of those key elements to building partnerships between organizations?
I had the privilege and honor of working for the Squamish Nation for 13 years, and the key elements, if you are going in, my advice, if you are going in as a proponent wanting to do business with an Indigenous community, do your research. Google's a great thing, find out the population, the territories and what have you. But I guess my biggest advice is, just because there is a project coming up and that's the only reason that you want to meet the community that you're around, think about this as a long-term relationship. My best connections when I was with the Squamish Nation were the people that didn't have a project with us for 5 years, but checked in once every 2 weeks to say, hey, what's going on? Just, can I help with anything? Can I participate with anything? Can I volunteer for anything? I need to get some artwork. I'm just wondering if you can connect me with an artist. Do you have a caterer because we're doing an event? Where you're already, so when you're going into the Squamish Nation or in front of a boardroom, in front of an ECDEV Corp or chief and council or whoever the decision makers are for those communities, they can say, who are you? And you can say, actually, we've already been doing business for the last couple of years. I have the most beautiful piece of art that's sitting in our boardroom from an artist in your community could be, Richard Baker, it could be, hey, Nicholas Baker, whoever it may be. Or I've bought some corporate gifting, or I've supported this caterer in the community and they've catered 3 of our different events. Or I've hired some of your cultural knowledge keepers or traditional land acknowledgement elders. So we've been doing business for a couple of years already, but this is our first formal introduction. Mm-hmm. I can't even tell you the volumes that comes. It literally is the decision maker. It's a tipping point of a decision from 2 construction companies that are of exactly the same price from A and B. That's where the authenticity comes from. And I think that there's a lot of trust that's been compromised. And I think there's a lot of trust that can be built, but it's built on relationships, and business runs it for Indigenous communities. And I think many other communities, business runs at the speed of trust. And it's really important to develop those relationships beforehand.
So shifting back to the Bears Lair, it takes a very unique approach in comparison to some of the other shows that are out there that it may be on a bit of a similar level, focusing on some collective growth and allowing people to keep the ownership and own the ownership in their companies. Can you expand a little bit more on that? And did you face any opposition? Was it difficult in the fundraising? Did it take a little bit longer than you think it typically would? Or did it help filter out some of those people that might be, I guess, the sharks?
Well, you know what? We don't take the whole premise. What makes the Bearsler different is that we don't take ownership or creativity from the businesses. And I absolutely love the Dragon's Den and Shark Tank. I can binge on that and have binged on that my entire life. And it's trailblazing and it's amazing programming, but it's not. I wanted something different where we really could showcase everybody. There's a couple things for the Bearsler. Where cultural diversity is what we want to show. So we want so many different cultures to be platformed. Geographic diversity. So our intent is to have somebody represented from every province if we can. The difference between Plains, Indigenous, and West Coast are incredibly different. And just bringing all of these people together is what we like to call relations to nations. Mm-hmm. Because we are all related. And then also we wanted non-competing businesses. So we're not going to have 3 people or 2 people that have exactly the same business that are on each other. Mm-hmm. We wanted diversity for that so that we could create something we call co-opetition, which is a really great feeling of networking and collaboration when we get there. We wanted to encourage our entrepreneurs to collaborate with each other, to practice with each other, to pitch with each other. And we really became this incredible family. And that's what I want. That's what I really wanted. And the fact that we could, the world is, Canada is watching. It's on Lumi, which streams worldwide now. And we're getting a lot of different comments from New Zealand and Australia about why isn't there programs like this here? And it's just a really exciting program. Mm-hmm. that we've developed. And season 3, hopefully coming up, and the fact that CBC has taken that interest in it so that we could bring it to more mainstream people that don't necessarily know what APTN is, Aboriginal People's Television Network. Mm-hmm. But knowing that Air Canada and people are starting to pay attention. They tend to be so hard on ourselves, particularly myself, because I think I have so much to do. And we've only been doing this for 2 years. In 2 years, we've got a national TV show for 2 years, season 1, season 2. We've done 40 kids camps all over Canada. We've got a podcast where we've done our own podcast, Beyond the Lair, where we've done 40 podcasts. And besides that, I've got a renewables company. I've got a staffing company. I've got our own company, Indigenous Initiatives, where we do consulting and grant writing for communities. And 4 boys on top of all of that. So it's busy, and my mind just keeps working about what can we do next and what can we do next. And I think it's just perfect timing, because I think in your 20s, you're trying to figure yourself out. In your 30s, you think you kind of got there, but you're maybe developing new relationships, or you're in a long-term relationship with somebody. And then in your 30s to 40s, you're having kids. Getting married, having kids, the focus isn't really on you anymore. You don't get that opportunity to go and flourish the way you want to, or become an entrepreneur. It has so much more risk now, because you have a whole family behind you that isn't necessarily working with you to pursue that dream, because you've got to make money, and there's so expensive to live in Vancouver, for sure. But I'm in my 50s now, and even though I do have young kids, because I had mine when I was 40, I think that I have all the credibility of my past of working with the Squamish Nation. I'm in my 50s now, so I can talk to people, the Gen X's that are running companies right now, and be on the same page. And I thought being old might be more of detriment, but it's actually more of a plus. And I think I figured when I turned 50, I have about 10 years to establish what my legacy is, what my why is. Yeah. And either I could work for a really great company, a construction company, or in the industry, and be their Indigenous leader. And then 6 years from now, when I was 50 to 56, maybe train my successor and then kind of tap out when I'm 60 and then go off on my way. And I just thought this is just beginning. I'm just getting the spikes on my track shoes on and just getting some momentum to change the paradigm of Indigenous entrepreneurism, break through the barriers and stereotypes of us as people, educate the youth all over Canada, the young youth that are the leaders of tomorrow, the 11 to 18 years old, really build social confidence with a pack of youth that's 18 to 35 years or 39 years old, because you are eligible for grants and opportunities. And I want to be able to help you navigate your focus. And then promote our TV show so people can understand the beautiful and inspirational businesses that we have to offer that are making a difference, that are above anything that anyone could imagine in respect of food sovereignty, construction, technology, and all of it surround with helping each other and making this world a better place.
That's phenomenal. And I really admire that too. When you're sitting there at the path and you see where you think where your North Star is and where your career path is taking you. And, you have that choice. And it took a little bit of a risk to probably move out and to move out onto that idea. But it's having the confidence behind it, having the network behind it, and having that true belief in your heart that it's doing the right thing. It's that hard work.
Absolutely. And I honestly believe, and I say this all the time, your network is your net worth, right? So the people that you hang out with, that you surround yourself with, that believe in you, people that are stronger, faster, smarter, and more talented, do not be intimidated by those people. Hang out with them, learn from them, and they will introduce you to more, where your circles become more circles of positivity. And that's what I found. I give that to youth all the time, that advice to youth all the time. Sometimes you have friends or colleagues that are more, you hang out with them because of history and not chemistry. We went to high school together. We party together. This is a way, and some people never evolve and change. So if you hang out with people that are better than you, or if you are that person in your circle that is better, faster, smarter, more talented, then use your influence to uplift the people around you and to elevate the people around you, because that's what's going to make you more successful, is to give your experience to others and be that leader and follow people that you admire.
Do you have any, you've provided a lot of advice, but do you have any further advice for any of the listeners and watchers that are thinking about getting into business? And if they're interested in getting involved and to float their ideas over to you, how do they do that?
Well, you can contact me at Geena, Geena, at bearslayertv.com. I'm happy to give any advice to anybody about their business. My advice, first and foremost, if you are interested in starting a business and you're young, or not even young, if you are interested in starting your business, if you want to start a coffee shop or a restaurant or a food truck or something like that, go and work for a company that has that right now. If you want to open up a coffee shop, go work at a coffee shop. Not to take their ideas, but to go get experience. That's a free paid school for you, where you can go in and you can learn about all the front house, the back of the house. Maybe it's accounting or what have you. Maybe you're going to decide that this is not the business for you. But when you do go and you do apply for loans or grants or anything like that, then you have that experience behind you, where you could say, I'm applying for money. I've worked at this place for 6 months or a year or 2 years, and this is my dream and this is what I want to do. That would be my advice. And also reach out to the people that are your mentors. Reach out to the people that you admire and ask if you can take them for coffee, and think of some questions or some advice that you need. And you're going to be remarkably surprised that people really, really want to help, genuinely want to help.
And some of the traditional roadblocks and what you've seen with past entrepreneurs, and what these young entrepreneurs can expect in terms of challenges that they're going to face, and extra expectations that'll be upon them that they wouldn't, that some of the past people haven't had, but also maybe some of the extra abilities and opportunities they have as a result.
Well, I think the entrepreneurs of yesterday have really paved the way for us today. There was no social media. When people wanted to find your business, there was a flyer on a coffee shop with a little cutouts that you would take your number of dog walking, this, what have you. You had to look in the yellow pages and you had to pay for a yellow pages ad, or you go and hustle and give out flyers or what have you on your own. Entrepreneurism is really important and people see it. Banks see it. This is the economy. It's creating economies within your own communities. There's support for Indigenous entrepreneurs, non-Indigenous entrepreneurs. There's BIPOC. There's all sorts of advances in technology where you can go on Instagram or TikTok and all of a sudden you have an audience and a base. So I think technology has been a real tool for advertising. And I think basically, if you know your why and you know your purpose and you know your passion, nothing's going to stop you. Mm-hmm. So I think that there's a lot of older entrepreneurs that want to give advice to the younger ones. Read some books. Yeah. There's an incredible book called Who Not How, and it's by an oldie but a goodie. And the author is Dan Sullivan. And he's written so many different books, but it's basically, you know how to do what you're doing. You just need to know who is going to help you with the skill sets that you don't have. Mm. Accounting, social media, management, banking, whatever it may be. Don't be afraid to ask. Read some books, educate yourself. There is so many books out there. If you don't read hard copy, there's Audible where you can Google business books. If you don't have time for Audible like I do, there's an app called Blinkist, mm-hmm. and that is taking all the best books in the world and summarizing into 30 minutes. Sometimes I go for a walk for an hour and I've read 3 books. Yep. Because I'm like, I am a very let's get to the point type of person. Like, mm-hmm. okay. Mm-hmm. And that's what I need to do. So educate yourself. There's lots of free resources out there for you.
Yep. So we'll quickly move on into our rapid fire section. It's a couple of quick questions from one sentence to one word answers. And it's just to get to know you a little bit better. And then we'll finish off this show.
Perfect.
So your favorite place to unwind after a busy day?
The mountains, Eagle Mountain, because I live up in Port Moody.
Cool.
I go hiking.
So that would be your best camping, best hiking spot. Best road trip destination?
Westport, Washington.
Grouse Grind or Eagle Mountain?
Grouse Grind.
Okay. One place in BC that's on your bucket list?
Haida Gwaii.
Mm. Best business advice you've ever received in 1 word or less? 5 words or less, sorry.
Before you tell me what you do, tell me why you do it.
Go-to comfort food after a long day of filming?
Pasta.
Mm. One app on your phone that you can't live without?
Facebook.
Fair. Thank you so much for joining us, Geena. It was fantastic getting to know you. I've loved the show. I look forward to it if there's going to be a season 3. And we've got a gift for you to present. And thank you so much for opening up and sharing your story with us a little bit today.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you for doing this podcast. I think it's a great program, and it's really, this is what businesses is, how businesses flourish is with technology and with communication and with relationship building and getting to know great people like yourself that are making a difference and letting our voices be heard. So thank you.
So here you are. It's all personalized for you. It's got all of the chocolates and everything to kind of keep you going on the road. Hopefully that's one of your comfort foods as well. But thank you so much again for joining us. And we look forward to seeing more from you.
So nice. Thank you so much.
You bet. Thanks. That's all we have for today's show. Please like and subscribe and tune in next time when we bring in another interesting guest with inclusive insights and exclusive experiences. Thanks. Take care.